This vehicle has no driver. It does not have to stop at every station. And when a passenger chooses a destination, the system routes the car there without asking a bus schedule for permission. It is not a Silicon Valley prototype. It has been doing this in West Virginia since the 1970s. The Morgantown Personal Rapid Transit system was built as a test of America's transportation future. The federal demonstration ended decades ago. The machine did not. And 50 years later, what it proved remains surprisingly difficult to answer. Was Morgantown a successful automated transit system, or was it an expensive warning label poured in concrete? The answer is annoyingly complicated. In the late 1960s, Morgantown had a problem that sounds small until you try to move thousands of students through it every day. West Virginia University was split across town. Downtown, Evansdale, medical facilities, hills, roads, traffic, and the Monongahela River all getting a vote. Local accounts describe traffic so bad that class changes could choke the city. Jim Hatcher, a WVU graduate student in the 1960s, later recalled sitting around University Avenue and Campus Drive for 45 minutes, waiting for something to move somewhere. The university was growing. Students needed to move between separated campuses. Cars and buses fought the same streets. Parking performed its ancient ritual of disappearing exactly when needed. Then, an industrial engineering professor named Samy Elias pushed a different idea. Small automated vehicles, dedicated guideways, stations where riders would choose a destination. A system that could move people directly instead of forcing every vehicle to stop everywhere. Personal Rapid Transit, or PRT, was not supposed to be a slightly stranger bus. The promise was public transit with some of the convenience of a car, automated vehicles separated from traffic, routed by destination. Morgantown had the local problem. Washington had a much bigger dream. The Urban Mass Transportation Administration described Morgantown as a demonstration project, service between the city's central business district and WVU's separated campuses, but also a test of a fully automatic urban transportation system. Its objectives were explicit: demonstrate technological, operational, and economic feasibility, evaluate whether PRT could apply to national needs, and qualify the system for use elsewhere under UMTA grants. So this was never just a campus shuttle. It was a question in concrete. WVU says the project was funded by the U.S. Department of Transportation and designed and constructed by Boeing. Local history adds the Washington machinery. West Virginia's congressional delegation, including Senator Robert Byrd, mattered. Transportation Secretary John Volpe publicly promised a system that would ease congestion, cut auto exhaust, and set a national pace. That is a large assignment for a small car in Morgantown. At first, the numbers sounded almost manageable. Morgantown Magazine reports that the Department of Transportation granted $13.5 million toward a 6-station system WVU believed would cost about $18 million. Then, JPL produced a less comforting estimate. The federal project manager, NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, put the cost much higher, $37 million. The design changed, the timeline compressed. The original small vehicle idea gave way to larger cars. The full 6-station plan became a smaller first phase. It was still called PRT. Technically, that was already getting complicated. The original idea fit the personal part more cleanly: small automated vehicles, point-to-point service. But the system that emerged used larger vehicles, eventually closer to group rapid transit. The name stuck anyway, because once a public project has an acronym, it becomes load-bearing. In October 1972, there was a dedication ceremony. Not a finished system, a dedication ceremony. Those are different products. Patricia Nixon Cox, President Nixon's daughter, participated in one of the early demonstration rides. The administration wanted visible progress before the 1972 election. The system was less interested in electoral calendars. A partial demonstration existed. Testing continued. Vehicles ran at Boeing's facility in Seattle and on the Morgantown Guideway. The project accumulated miles, problems, and the usual hazards of building infrastructure while the design was still learning to stand upright. By 1974, the story had turned. Morgantown magazine summarizes a Business Week report that accused the accelerated schedule of forcing contractors to build while designing. The project, described as 6 stations for $37 million, was now projected as 3 stations for $64 million, and well over $100 million for all 6. The question was no longer whether Morgantown would set the pace for the nation. The question was whether anyone should finish the thing already standing over the street. In April 1974, the New York Times reported that the federal government had invested more than $57 million in the showcase system and was now studying how to blow it up. This is rarely a sign that a demonstration project is enjoying a normal afternoon. WVU President James Harlow reportedly said the university was willing to have it removed. Political pressure, in his telling, had pushed the project so far from the original concept that it had become little more than hardware on a test track. Then, Congress raised the stakes. According to Morgantown magazine, the House appropriated money to complete Phase 1, but with an ultimatum: work out Phase 2 quickly, or use the money to tear the system down. So before Morgantown's transportation future could fail as a revolution, it almost failed as demolition paperwork. If you wanted to call PRT a boondoggle, 1974 gave you material: cost overruns, political pressure, a partial system, and a project publicly discussed in terms of dynamite. But Morgantown still had the original problem. Students still had to move. The campuses were still separated. The roads had not become wider. And once the Guideway existed, tearing it down did not magically produce a better transit system. It produced an expensive absence. On October 3, 1975, the first phase opened for public ridership. The full 5-station system would not open until July 1979, after Phase 2 construction and testing. The thing people remember as the Morgantown PRT did not arrive in one clean cinematic moment. It arrived like infrastructure usually does: late, argued over, partial, expensive, and wearing a hard hat just outside the frame. But then something inconvenient happened. People used it. NPR described the rider experience in 2016. At a station, passengers choose a destination before entering. Cars wait with destination signs. A car headed to the medical center can pass the engineering station without slowing down if nobody needs to stop there. That bypass is the little mechanical argument at the center of PRT. Conventional transit usually makes the passenger adapt to the route. Morgantown's PRT lets the passenger name the destination, then skip stops that car does not need. The 1975 UMTA description called this direct origin-to-destination service. It also described scheduled and demand modes: regular service during busy periods, more on-demand behavior when traffic was lighter. During midday lulls, NPR reported, cars could sit at stations instead of running empty on a schedule. The current system, according to WVU, has 5 stations and 8.7 miles of dedicated guideway. WVU says it carries roughly 12,000 riders daily during the school year and recorded 98.7% availability during operating hours in 2023-2024. Those are WVU reported figures, but they do point to something real. This is not a museum piece. It is a machine people depend on. Nobody gets angry when a museum exhibit is down for maintenance. They get angry when the thing that was supposed to get them to class stops moving. Morgantown's PRT achieved the highest honor available to technology. People stopped being amazed by it and started being annoyed when it failed. NPR quoted a student saying it was easier than driving and trying to park. Clement Solomon, then running the system, called it one of the best-kept secrets in the transportation world. He also described the refurbish or abandon decision WVU faced as the system aged. The cars were wearing out. The control systems needed updating. The university commissioned a study. Contemporary and current estimates suggest replacing it would require dozens of buses. A failed revolution is one thing. A failed revolution that still prevents a bus swarm is harder to file. But useful is not the same as proved the national model. UMTA's goals were bigger than moving students from Walnut to health sciences. The agency wanted technical feasibility, operational feasibility, economic feasibility, and evidence that PRT could apply elsewhere. The first two look easier to defend. The system could run. People could use it. It could move real passengers in real weather through a real town. The economic and national questions were harder. A 1975 Office of Technology assessment report on automated guideway transit was blunt about the broader PRT problem. The economic characteristics of PRT were so unclear that meaningful analysis is difficult. Cost assumptions varied widely. Some estimates depended on large production runs that did not yet exist. Security, maintenance, urban guideways, and public acceptance could all change the math. That is the part a working campus system could not automatically solve. Morgantown could show that automated guideway transit could operate. It could not prove that enough other cities would accept the guideways, pay the capital costs, coordinate the land, trust the automation, and generate enough riders in the right places. Infrastructure is not contagious just because it works somewhere. Morgantown had a specific shape of problem. Separated university destinations, concentrated ridership, public institutions that could coordinate, and a corridor where a guideway made sense. A city is messier. More origins, more destinations, more landowners, more utilities, more budgets, more people arriving at public meetings with laminated objections. Whether those headlines affected later adoption is harder to prove, but America's first PRT showcase was now associated with overruns, political pressure, and possible demolition. For a technology trying to sell cities on elevated concrete guideways, we might dynamite the first one is not ideal marketing copy. So the result was not clean. Morgantown did not prove that personal rapid transit should remake every American city. It proved something narrower. Under the right conditions, an automated system built for a grand national experiment could become useful local infrastructure. A national transportation model became a campus transit system. A revolution became a route. A passenger presses a button. A car arrives. The doors close. Somewhere inside the system, a half-century-old bet keeps moving. The experiment is over. The machine still has passengers.